You're ready to write, and now you're trying to figure out, how do I get great at this? I'm excited. Let's jump right in. So one of the first things I like to do with my blog post is I like to open up with a question. You don't have to do this, but most of the time I'm able to add the question with a keyword. We're going to start with an example over at themeparkhipster.com. Now, I recently had a writer submit an article on the 7 best food. I'm looking just to make sure I don't forget the title, which is called the 7 best food to eat at Knott's Berry Farm, something like that. Now, when we first started this article, you always want to have your keyword in the first sentence. And what I usually do is I definitely have my keyword in the first sentence, but I try really hard to make it into a question. Either a question that somebody has already Googled with that keyword. I make it as my very first sentence on my blog post. And so you'll see here on this article, it says, are you looking for the best food to eat at Knott's Berry Farm? Most time, if they're coming to this blog post about the best things to eat at Knott's Berry Farm, they are looking for it. So I'm asking them, are you? And that gets them going like, okay, I'm in the right place. So anytime you're starting your blog post, you can ask a question. And if you're like, this doesn't really give me the opportunity to ask a question, side note, just always have your keyword in the first sentence of your blog post, but allow it to be something that's enticing. It gives a nice big punch to get somebody curious about continuing to read. Now, my next tip for becoming a better blog writer is to write the way you speak. Now, I'm from the South, so sometimes I have a little twang, but when I am doing my first draft of the article, I just go. I don't think about, oh, I left a sentence out or I misspelled something. I just write from my heart, right off the top of my head, how I speak. I love to do that because that always makes somebody feel like they're connected with you. You'll get emails and they'll reference something you said, and you've probably written hundreds of articles by this point. You don't remember, but because when you were writing at that time, you took the extra effort to really go deep inside and to speak to that person the way you would speak to a friend or family. So that's one of the tips that I have for you, is to write the way you speak in a conversation with your friends and family. The next way to improve your writing as a blogger is to open up with a quick story. Now, it doesn't have to be long, elaborate. You don't have to give a whole background on why you love a recipe. No shade, guys. But you can just give something quick, like a quick experience. So let's just go back to the Knott's Berry Farm. Like, this is a small, quick story that she wanted to give on a background of why she was interested in sharing her knowledge about the food at Knott's Berry Farm. And she just opens up and says, Knott's Berry Farm is known as a park for locals and for its awesome specialty events and coasters as a Cedar Fair park. It's also known for being one of the oldest theme parks in the country with a treasured history with its humble beginnings growing boysenberries. But something I learned very quickly during my visits to Knott's Berry Farm is that they have a good chunk of unique and delicious food and treat offerings to try. Now, as you can see, and she even said, you will want to bookmark this for your visit, as today I will be going 7 of the best things to eat at Knott's Berry Farm. You see how she just gave a quick introduction about Knott's Berry Farm, why people love it, one of the most popular fruits there, and why it kind of got its claim to fame. And then she even says that she has learned stuff through her visit. Just put a little quick story so you can kind of get the context of the article. And then she gives you a call to action to bookmark this. If you can incorporate that kind of stuff to get people to come back to your blog, or people to just save your blog for the future for something they need to reference in the future, you are winning. And as you can see, she just goes right into number 1, the boysenberry tart. That's a quick story. It got me interested. I'm like, wow, Knott's Berry Farm has all this. So after I'm done reading this article about the great food at Knott's Berry Farm, now I might be interested in seeing if this blogger has any more, I'm saying this blogger, but if my website has any more articles related to Knott's Berry Farm, because now I'm invested in the history and the story of this theme park, and I might want to go there for some other reasons. So that's a way to incorporate story into your blog posts. Another way to become a better blog writer is to write in an active voice. A lot of times when we went to school, we were told to speak in a more passive tone with our sentence structure. But I'm going to give you an example between the two, between more passive versus active voice. So for example, this would be more passive. Mickey Mouse was loved by Disney fans. This would be more active. Disney fans love Mickey Mouse. So you're just saying, it hits you. It's kind of hard to describe it, but an active voice is more punchy. It gets to the point a little bit straighter. And you can see that if you have a tool like Yoast, it'll give you a score on just how well your active or passive voice is. You don't have to have it 100% green, but it will kind of teach you how to write your sentences a little bit more on the active side versus the passive side. So in an active voice, the subject is performing the action, like the example we just gave, while in the passive voice, the subject is now being acted upon. But don't get too caught up on it. Just really try to work hard with just getting your sentence structures kind of short, to the point, but still informative, in your favorite tone, whatever tone you decide for your blog, and just have fun with it. I'm not trying to be an English teacher on here. I just want to make sure that I give you some kind of tips. And speaking of short sentences, is that becoming a better blog post writer is that you will have shorter sentences than you will be used to from English class. You will learn that with blog writing, a lot of the rules you learn in English, it kind of doesn't apply because you're writing for a human being who's going to be reading on their phone. So your sentences cannot be too long, even though they are a complete full sentences. You got to get your structure, you got to have your howevers, and therefore that stuff doesn't really work in blogging. You want to keep your sentences short but still informative, and if you have to throw in some sentences that are long because they just convey the message, then do it. I'm just giving you kind of like a brief guide, but just do what works for your reader and just get to know them. The more you get to know them, the more you'll be able to know how to structure your blog posts. Also, you'll notice that your paragraphs will be a lot shorter. That 3 to 4 sentence paragraph does not work in the world of mobile phones. You definitely want to keep your paragraphs at about 1 or 2 sentences. If your sentence is very long, then your paragraph will only be 1 sentence. And sometimes a sentence with 3 words will just be a paragraph to emphasize the point. So it's going to be a lot of new things for you for blogging, but like we talked about, it's overall about the user, the reader experience. Are they having a pleasurable experience at your blog? The next thing that you want to do to kind of help your blog writing process to be better and to write better is to have examples. We use these examples here on our tax blog a lot because taxes are complicated and it doesn't matter how clear we can be with the definitions. Sometimes people need legit examples. You can also do this through imagery, adding photos, especially if you have a how-to or a step-by-step. Adding photos for each step also gives the reader an example of what you're trying to say. And infographics. Infographics are underrated, but they're so effective. I love infographics. They take some time, but you can find somebody on Fiverr to create you one for your blog post. They are very effective and they help create the story and give the full experience for the reader, because at the end of the day, it's all about the reader experience. Overall, when you are trying to become a better blog writer, you just want to add your personality to it. Just keep the conversation between you and the reader, and I promise you, you will win at blogging.